What am I saying again?
This is MPW,
MPW.
the podcast
with your host,
Xylo Aria. Cool.
a podcast about music production
for the everyday musician.
where we learn from experienced studio engineers and each other.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the MPW podcast. I'm your host, Xylo Aria, and today we are joined by the lovely Liina Turtonen. So Liina is a producer, an artist, a YouTuber, an educator, and she runs a super entertaining and very informative YouTube channel called LNA Does Audio Stuff. If you haven't checked it out already, you should definitely do that and subscribe. And she also runs an organization called Equalize Music Production and has also previously been a university lecturer on music production. So she does loads of different things. So great to have you with us, Liina. How are you going?
I'm very well, thank you. And just to mention, I also make music on the top of that.
Yes, that's
under
true.
name LNA.
Under LNA, yes.
Actually, on this topic, it's good to mention that I'm currently in a phase musically, really working on my creative confidence and workflows. And one of the perspectives of this is that as much as this is my job to do music and do YouTube and all this, my perspective right now is to not put labels or is manage my expectations. So my focus is making music that I love right now. And what comes out of it is then I see how I want to market it. But my aim is not to make an album, not to make an EP, not to make a single. My aim is to make songs that I love. And then when I have songs that I love, then I will see what comes out of it, like how marketing is. And I think this is something that we might talk a lot about today, is that why even making a different decision or like that kind of goal can actually affect your creative confidence a lot when you are working.
For sure. So yeah, I mean that's a great kind of segue into what we're talking about today. And yeah, you're so right, I guess, and we'll get into it a bit more later. As soon as we put the pressure on ourselves to be creating a particular type of body of work, maybe that's a bit counterproductive. But I love that your aim is to make music that you love, because that should always be the aim, shouldn't it?
Oh my God, it's so much that, and especially because I really lost my creative confidence for so many years. And now this is like finally getting it back. So the last thing I want to do now is to destroy it again with this needed, unnecessary pressures that I don't need to put it on it right now. So the focus is fully just to enjoy, like find that kind of childish enjoyment of just making music and making sounds and just not care about, stats or money, or just like find it almost like a way to use it fully as my expressional tool, like self-expressional tool instead of anything else.
For sure. And yes, so I guess I might as well mention our topic for today, even though we've kind of been talking about it already, but which is creative workflows or music production workflows and creative confidence, something that I've seen you speak about a bit already on your YouTube channel and things, Liina, and I found it really useful as well. So really excited to get into this with you. And you are writing a book currently on this topic as well. So something that you are super passionate about. So very, very excited to have you chat about that with us today. So before we get into that, actually, I would love to hear a bit more about where things started for you in music and how you got to where you are today.
Well, it's a long story, but I'm trying to, you know how I like talking, so I'm just going to try to sum it up. So basically, I grew up in a very artistic family. My mom is an artist. So and my brother is a musician. My other brother is an artist as well. So we are a very bohemian artistic family. So I grew up in a theater. I also grew up in a conservatoire playing violin and all that. So my family, we didn't listen to music. We made music. And we literally have a piano in the middle of the house. We never really had good speaker systems. So like listening to music has never been the thing. So I actually am quite out of like the the knowledge of a lot of like famous bands and stuff, but I grew up just making it and singing it and doing all kind of stuff. So that's kind of like the why I make music, even though when I was 19 I swore like I'm never gonna be a musician, I hate music, and I was like I would like no, I'm gonna be an actress. And then I moved to Glasgow, I found studios and buttons and synthesizers, and I was like, oh, actually this is quite fun. So then I became a music producer, and and then it's just been a journey then kind of finding the balance between a music producer, my old self who's like constantly composing, and that's where I also found the love between how creative confidence and understanding what happens, because also my father is a psychiatrist, and my brother is also the artist one is also a psychiatrist. So then I have this nerd side of me, academic side of me, and the artist side of me, and then I'm like a psychologist hobbyist, if that would that makes sense. So then I'm putting like psychology and all that together, and that's where I am now. Started YouTube channel 3 years ago, still doing that. Was a lecturer for a while for music production. It's just been a whirlwind. I'm just a person who just gets excited about everything. Literally just before this, when we started recording this, I was like, oh my God, I just started this other project. And it was so sound design for like a dance company. And I'm like so psyched about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to find time for it. But it's like super exciting. So I think it's just a lot of stuff. But it's just, I think it's led by my passions and the fact that I just get excited about everything.
I love that. I love that.
Did that work?
Yeah, and I think that was great. And I think for anyone that's watched your YouTube channel, that excitement just comes through so strongly. And I think that's one of the best things about how engaging your content is that like I can see that. I can feel the excitement. And it's sorry, like even after like 3 years, over 3 years posting once a week, I still only want to make content really that I get excited about. But so I kind of like, I really need to listen, like, what do I want to make today? So yeah, it is, but it's fun. Music is fun. Music production is fun. Being a nerd is fun. It's so much fun. For sure. And it's funny how so many people, that grow up around what their families are doing, whether it's, I don't know, something like law or accounting or something, and they're like, I'm never going to be that person. And for you, like, you were rebelling against being a musician, which is just such a random thing.
I know, because I was like, oh, I hate this world. Well, it was very like, Finnish conservatoire world. I went to music-oriented schools and stuff. It can also be very competitive. And as much as it's amazing, like I'm so lucky to have had that background, but it's also very competitive, and it also is slightly elitistic. So I was not just fitting into that world, but then I didn't realize that actually like music in Finland as well as rest of the world has so many different worlds inside of music, that I just needed to find my own place in it. And I found it from Glasgow electronic music scene. And that was more from me than example, maybe the Finnish classical and, pop world. Okay. So it's just like you need to find your own place in music, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. No, that's great. And great to hear all the other things that have that you've got yourself into, especially with the new kind of sound design project and everything else that you're doing around your own music as well. So I guess it's just a part of being a modern musician is doing loads of things at once.
Oh my God. Yeah. My revenue streams are like 15 different places. So it's like,
no, for sure. So today we're talking about production workflows and creative confidence. So maybe if you can define for me, what do we mean when we talk about production workflows?
Yeah. Okay, so personally, I believe that there's 3 types of workflows that come to play that when we create. So especially when we create music production. So the most familiar one that we are familiarized with is almost like the order in which you proceed to put stuff into your DAW or into your song. So example, we're going to do vocals first, and then we're going to put drums, and then we're going to, that's a workflow. But also there can be workflows inside of a DAW or in studio. I might put, this FX pedal first, and then I'm going to put this one and that one. It's like almost like a plan of techniques that you put in a certain order. So that is one way that the most traditional way that we see a workflow. And quite often workflows we talk about them as non-pre-planned workflows. So we almost think like it's this habit that you have. And quite often artists have been asked like, what is your workflow? And it's almost this natural thing that people do automatically. And some people always do the same workflow. Some people variate it. But I personally believe workflows are something that you can plan, and you kind of should plan, especially if you feel stuck, if you feel like the workflow is not happening naturally for you that day. That's absolutely fine, and it's also normal. And what the planning workflows can do is also take away the fear of blank page fear, that the fact that, oh my God, now I need to do that. Something like I need to create something great right now. But also it takes a fear away that, will this be the best hit song? The things that instead of focusing on the process, you focus on the outcome. So it can take away, planning a workflow can take away that as well. It can also take away the fact that the fear that will I be happy when this song is finished? So example, let's say you planned yourself 10-step workflow. In the end of that 10 steps, are you going to be feeling like, yes, I finished the 10 steps, even though the song is a bit shit, but I finished it, so I feel a sense of accomplishment that I created a track in 10 steps. Do you know what I mean? So there's like managing expectation, managing outcomes. So creating goals, creating steps can really take away a lot of that fear, as well as take away a lot of pressure. So that is the most common way of understanding workflows. But I also believe that there's actually 3 workflows that are part of. And the first one would be your mental process. So that would be your psychological process. And that's your workflow. So what is your goals? Why are you doing it? Why are you making music today? Why are you doing it? So it's almost like creating yourself a plan in a really realistic way. Why are you doing it? So example, if you want to create a pop song that is on the top 10 of the radio plays, that is absolutely realistic plan. But you need to knowledge that that's your plan. Because if you kind of don't knowledge it and you try to create a pop song and then you don't manage that expectations, or you don't take the steps that it takes to create a top 10 pop song, then you might get disappointed because you're not done the emotional work that it takes beforehand to kind of prepare yourself for whatever is coming. So the first step workflow is just your emotional expectations. The second one is the action plan. So, okay, let's say you want to make this top 10 pop song, radio top 10, whatever. So how do you get to that point? How do you get to that song? So you already kind of realized it emotionally, that's what you want to do. So the next point is, okay, I need to maybe reserve myself a day where I study what the top 10 songs sound like. Then I'm going to prepare myself a list of instruments that they use, and I'm going to prepare myself a session and time to be in a studio to put those together. So it's an action plan on what you have decided to do. And that is, again, action plan is equal same as workflow because it is kind of all ties together. And then after this plan, you have the third section, which is actually the most traditional way that we understand workflow, which is actually creating it through the plan that you already created. So I would say there's 3 workflows, and in 3 workflows, you have 3 separate plans first emotional, then action plan, and then the practical part of actually making the song. And that is basically, in my mind, what workflows and that enhance creative confidence come from.
Okay, I never really thought about it that way actually, and that's a really great way to put it into those three sections. So starting with the first one maybe. So you were talking about the mental side of things and managing your expectations. Where would you start in building a workflow in that section of the creation process?
Yeah. So this is the hardest one, definitely, because you kind of need to figure yourself out and you need to be very emotionally aware what's happening inside of you. And one very good way of doing this is going to therapy. I'm not even kidding. This is like, it's a tool. Therapy is a tool for you to figure yourself out and why you feel certain way. It's not only a resolution when you have an issue, but it's a tool for you to really be aware of yourself. And if you feel like you never really looked inside your mind, then example, I would recommend extremely much, just book a couple sessions with somebody. And it's almost like, booking a singing lesson. That's how I see it. It's like, instead of focusing on practicing your vocal techniques, you're practicing and focusing in your mental health and what's happening in your brain. So throughout that, I would focus on keywords and key insecurities that we might have, which is validation, need for validation. Why are you making music? What do you want to say with it? Why are you doing, who do you want to please with it? Do you want to please yourself? Do you want to please your mother? Do you want to please, who is it that you're making this for? So example, or something that really affected me for a long time was that I grew up in a classical world where electronic music was not a thing. And I was growing up in a world where my mom was constantly saying, oh, that thumping noise music, like it makes me so furious. So obviously when you hear that kind of saying a lot in your life, then it makes you feel very weird of making that kind of sounds, making that kind of music, because you're constantly thinking, is your mother going to actually like it? And for me, big realization was doing a workflow, basically understanding for myself that when I create and when I get that voice in my head saying, my mom is not going to like this, why I'm not living here for my mother. In a way, like, the things I do, like she will be happy whatever I do if I'm happy with it. So, I should not make music just to please my mother. So I started making electronic music. Another things that you need to think about is fear. Why are you afraid that you're going to fail? Are you afraid? And then if you feel like you're going to fail, why do you feel that there's a failure in creativity? So it's focusing on things like that. So also perfectionism. Where does your perfectionism come from? Understanding perfectionism. Why are you so focused on certain details? And that comes usually from a fear of failure. Why are you afraid of fear? So I would start from there, figuring out some of your biggest insecurities. I know how great that sounds, but that's like, it sounds scary, but then same time, it's almost like if you want to make art that is very authentic, very you, and so that you can fully enjoy the process, you can fully enjoy the outcome, so that you can do all those things, it's almost necessary to really answer those questions as much as they could hurt. And that's why I would definitely recommend doing that with somebody who is a professional to guide you through those. So personally, that's what I'm doing. I go once a month to therapy. I talk there all kind of things. And actually, last time I happened to talk about the fact that I struggle showing anger. And I was talking about the fact that actually I've been thinking about making songs that reflect anger in beats. And it was very fascinating to me because I was like, oh, wow, I got so inspired about that. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I want to make music that might be something that people don't even expect from me, so figure yourself out and then make yourself a plan emotionally. Example, when I create, every single time that I hear myself saying those things to myself, I note them and I put them away. So that is a workflow. It's a workflow for yourself to give yourself structure and rules when you create. What should you say to yourself emotionally when the insecurities or the self-saboteur comes in and says those certain things to you? You're not enough. This is not going to work. You know, your mom is not going to like it. All those like aspects. And that is, you're going to create even step-by-step guide list for yourself of those sentences that you keep on saying to yourself, and you give yourself an answer. And every time you hear yourself saying that thing, you're going to give yourself the answer that you planned. And that is already a workflow. And I bet if you actually work on this, it will help. I've been working on this for a couple of years now, and I'm still practicing and I still struggle with those things. But as I said in the beginning, this is my journey right now is just to focus on fully putting this process in full practice. And I'm already seeing results because I started to enjoy music so much more. And I started to actually find the kind of childish enjoyment in making sounds without any of the pressures and using as a self-expression, for example, anger, if I want to. And it's about self-expression and not about the views or the streams or about any of that. That can come later and there's valid and it's fun, but they're not those thoughts are not part of my process. They come after.
Oh my gosh, there is so much there, Liina. And it's amazing because like, if any artist manages to overcome everything that you said, I feel like we can like end the episode right now. That's everything.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's probably not possible to overcome any of that, and we change constantly, so we have new stuff that kind of happens. But the fact that you start the process now and not only when you are like older, the more chance you have time to actually enjoy creativity. And it's a process, and you know, finding these tools for yourself, the workflow to talk to yourself in a certain way when you create is massive.
Yeah. I think I need to book a psychologist appointment for myself, actually.
Good, go for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, on that, did it take you a while to find the right person? And also, did you try and find someone who maybe has that works around this area?
Yeah, so there are quite many different type of therapists. Psychiatrists are people who give medicine, so they are not ones that you should book right now. The ones that you should book is the people who have a psychologist degree, so they are called psychotherapists. Then you have either psychotherapists also or just therapists who have like a course that they've done where they become therapists, but they don't have a psychological degree. So personally, because I'm a bit of a hobbyist, I went to somebody who really knows psychology, so I can talk about in a certain concepts and stuff. But I think for personally, when you're looking for a therapist, the most important thing is that you're just looking for somebody who you can relate to, who you feel like is really listening to you, and who you feel comfortable, almost like a friend or sister or a brother or whatever that you feel comfortable with. They are probably the things that affect your creative confidence when it comes to your creativity are all related to things that normal psychologists or therapists talk about. So it doesn't need to be a person who is specialized in creativity, because everything to do with creativity is to do with your self-worth, with your, you know, need for validation, when I say need for validation, I mean your emotions being validated. So when you feel something, what you need to hear, is that validated? So example, that's what therapists do. They reflect and they validate what you feel, and that's how we also process things. So normal therapist usually they are able to talk through these things, and through these things, you will understand how they're affecting your creativity. So just figuring your normal things out, you will figure out how that stuff is. So how did your parents talk to you as a child? What's kind of any kind of trauma you have, all that will affect every single aspect of your life, will affect your creativity. But so that you can figure those out, go and talk about just your normal things, your normal insecurities, and all that will reflect to your creativity and for you to kind of make better music. So kind of talk about your childhood traumas to make better music. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Cool. No, that's good. Step one. We've got
Step
that.
one done.
Booked a psychologist. We've worked out our childhood trauma. Done. Okay. So now,
and they make a plan.
Yeah. Make a plan. Okay. So say we kind of are getting behind our kind of mental insecurities and we're working through them, and then working out what we need to say to ourselves to overcome them as much as we can. Like you said, I guess it's not going to disappear altogether. Then we get to the action plan stage, I guess. So tell me a bit more about that, and what would you do at this stage?
Okay, so our action plan usually is that we just sit down when we get inspired, or when we have time, or time is a big thing. When we have time, we sit down in our studios and start working. And what happens, you get inspired, suddenly everything in front of you overwhelms you. You get your insecurities coming back, you try to fight them. Your sentences that you plan are not working, you get overwhelmed and you stop doing. You put your laptop away and then you just go and procrastinate on Instagram for a while. Okay, so that happens to all of us, right? So this action plan is not working. And that's why we need an actual workflow that works for our action plan. So for this, I like talking about the psychological theory called Divergent Thinking and Convergent Thinking. So divergent thinking is basically a time where, like when you're in a shower or somewhere and you're just like, you just get these great ideas and you get very inspired. And that's where you usually run to the studio or buy a piano or whatever tool, and you start like putting out ideas and stuff. And that is called divergent thinking. So it's a way of just pulling ideas without judgment. So it's almost like you have this flow of creativity going through you and there's nothing blocking it. Whatever creative is happening, you're not even almost responsible of it. It just happens and it's just like, so that is divergent thinking. But convergent thinking is when you sit by your piano, you have this inspiration and suddenly you think, that is not complicated enough music theoretically. This arrangement is not working. So you start to take your things, what's coming through you, and you start to analyze them. You take facts that you think are true about the world and how music works, and you start putting those into pieces. So you take your ideas and you analyze them critically. And what we do usually is that we do these two, divergent and convergent thinking, same time. But the issue is that when we do them same time, we are blocking the cycle of creativity. So I have this idea of doing that in 3 sections of action plan. And when I started doing this personally, it really changed things for myself. So what I do is, so cause time is limited for all of us, you need to time block. So are you familiar with time blocking as a concept?
Not very much. So do tell.
Okay. So time blocking is basically where we go to our calendar and we see a certain time period and we give it a name, a concept. This is what I'm going to do for 2 hours. This is going to do for 3 hours, and you block that in your calendar. So it's basically the idea that, let's say that you are a person with a lot of family and you have children, and how do you find a time in that time, to be creative? So what you need to do is time block, find an hour. Let's say hour is pretty simple time amount to have. So let's say if you don't have 2 hours or 3 hours, you start with an hour, even half an hour. And you put, let's say Monday, an hour, I'm going to do divergent thinking. So Monday, hour, divergent thinking. So you're just literally writing, composing, being on your door, just creating without any judgment. Every time you do have the judgment, you need to go back and just say no. No, I'm not judging that. I'm not deleting that. I'm not stopping. I'm not preventing myself of saying that's wrong. There's no wrong in creativity. There's no failure in creativity. That doesn't exist. It's only in your head. And that's why now you need to go back to the step one of workflows. And then if you start really being mean to yourself, you need to really look in, like, have the certain sentences that you prepared with your therapist to say, don't be mean. Just let myself to create an hour, just full creative flow without judgment. Then let's say in Tuesday, we have convergent thinking. Okay. So in convergent thinking, you take what you did on Monday and you look at with kindness, you look at it and you think, oh, wonder what I could do with this. Okay, you start putting pieces together. You maybe, example, create an arrangement, you start putting things together, but maybe it doesn't need to be ready yet. Next Monday, you go back to the arrangement, divergent thinking, idea. Next Tuesday, convergent thinking. You take what you've done and you start sculpturing. After a month, you have a song because you've kind of gone through between those things. A third thing that we also want to add to all this is learning new stuff, right? So you had your idea, you sat down, you start doing convergent thinking and divergent thinking at the same time, you get confused, and then you see your new plugin and you feel maybe insecure because everybody else knows how to use this plugin, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm not good enough producer because I don't know how to use that. Oh, I need to learn exactly now how to use wavetable synthesis or something, because without that, I'm not enough as a producer, as a musician. You know that feeling, like you start saying that you're not good enough. So then in that moment, you start learning, and obviously learning takes time. So then you didn't create anything. You just learned. So Monday, convergent, Tuesday, divergent, Wednesday, our learning. Separate that to another day. So you have that time that you are selected just to learn. So when you do the divergent and convergent thinking, you focus only things that you already know. And then you give yourself a permission to learn new stuff on Wednesday. That means that on Monday and Tuesday when you're creating, you don't have that, oh, I'm not enough, oh, I'm a bad producer, or all that, because it's kind of like your plan and your structure has given you that, like, no, that, like, I'm not bad. I just have a dedicated time for learning. And then also it gives you the realism. If you only have 1 hour to learn every week, how could you know everything? And also, nobody knows everything. Like, what more you learn, the more you understand that nobody knows anything, really. The more there is to learn, always more and more and more to learn. I became Ableton certified trainer, and then I just understood after became Ableton certified trainer how much more there's to learn about Ableton, and I will never learn everything. It's impossible.
Oh my gosh.
So that's literally the key for it, is that you will never, ever learn everything. And that's why give yourself a break, learn once a week, and that's enough. And focus on things you already know and not things you don't know.
Oh, so much good stuff there. So phase 2, we're going to split up our time between divergent thinking, convergent thinking, and learning. So just kind of having different mindsets for each, and not being critical where we're not meant to be, and giving ourselves the freedom to just create. So love that. So we've gone to psychologists. We're working out all our issues and things, and we've got our psychology plan, and then we've got our action plan with our time blocking. And then where do we go to next in the creating part of it?
So the next thing is our workflow of creative workflow. So let's say we have divergent thinking moment. Personally, what I have done a lot is I actually go to my YouTube channel and also my website to download. I've created actual workflows, a lot of them, which are example 7-step, 10-step, 20-step. There's actually one that is have 40. So you create yourself a plan, or you go to my website and download one for yourself, and you follow it without judgment. Remember, no judgment. You're just creating. So if it says create drums, you go to your DAW or wherever, you create drums. Next, you create synth. Next, you do this. You just actually just go through it step by step. And in the end, you will have a song. Will you like it? Will you not like it? That's not the question. The question is, you have completed something. You have created a track. So example, if you are a person who struggles finishing tracks, this is the way for you to go. But so that you can actually fully feel confident to go to one step 10, you need to understand the first type of workflows that we already talked about, the psychologist as well as the action plan. Because if you just go to step 3 without the step 1 and 2, you will struggle finishing those steps, because in those steps you will feel, oh, I'm not enough. Oh, this is bad. Oh, I still can't feel just feeling of accomplishment just because I feel like this is a bad song. I feel overwhelmed. I'm trying to learn same time as I'm trying to create. So then obviously, if you're trying to do everything same time, it might be very hard for you to even complete these steps. So be kind to yourself. That's okay, normal as well. It's very normal. But in this point, either you follow steps that is given to you, especially if you can finish songs, or if you already have a song idea, then maybe you create yourself a plan. Literally write it down. Write down a very realistic time schedule, how you're going to make this song. And plans can change. It's not instructions. Instructions are rules. These are not rules. These are plans. Plans can always change. And that's the great thing. But also give yourself that. It's okay that the plans change. Because especially if it's inspiration that changes them. That's awesome. Go with that. But you can always come back to the plan. When the inspiration's gone, you go okay, now we go step number 7. And it really will help you just creating plans. Plan. Create a plan for your plan to create a plan. And honestly, it's great. Changes your life.
Okay. Okay. There again, so many great little bits of wisdom there to kind of create a plan. And I guess we have planned 3 times. Personally, I will say as well, I've had a look at these workflows that you've put together, Liina, and it's been so helpful. So for our listeners as well, we will put a link to the workflows in the show notes. So do download them, and whenever you're stuck in this third step, you can always go back to Liina's plan and then get some inspiration from there. So yeah, we will do that as well. So there has been so much good stuff there, Liina, and I feel like a really new way of looking at workflows. I've never really come across it and talked about this way, which is really exciting. And so much of this I'm very excited to kind of put into action myself. The first step especially, I think, seems to trip everyone up right at the start.
It's literally the first step is the one that is the hardest, because people think there's such a stigma talking about therapy. There's so much stigma about mental health. And personally, I've taken what more we talk about it openly, what more we kind of realize that we are all in the same spot. We are all feeling insecure. How successful you are, you still feel insecure. I'm writing a book about insecurity, feeling extremely insecure about writing the book about insecurity. You know what I mean? It's we need to become very realistic and realize we're not special in our insecurities. We need to realize that we are not special feeling shit about many things. So also, you have the right to feel that way, because a lot of us have experienced a lot of things. And especially if you have traumas from childhood or whatever, it's okay. You're allowed to feel those and you're allowed to take your time to figure them out. But just kind of remember that you're not alone. Like we all go through our own journeys. And that's why what more we talk about it, what more vocal we are about it, and we hear each other's story, the more realistic these scenarios become, and the more we understand we are not alone. And that's extremely important to realize that we all feel these.
Yeah, no, very good point. And yeah, I mean, when we were talking about production workflows, I was not expecting things to get so psychological, but, you know, I feel like you've really got getting to the crux of the issues there and given us a really good place to start with those things. And before I let you go, because I feel like there is a lot more we can cover on here, which, you know, if we maybe we'll need to make it another episode potentially. But before we finish up, I would love to hear if you had one piece of advice for musicians that are kind of feeling a bit stuck. And I know you had lots of good stuff there and following that would help someone so much. Is there a way to kind of bring it down to one specific thing that might help them to kind of get into a better workflow?
Yeah, I would say that trusting the fact that there's no right and wrong. Science is right. So how signals work, how compressor works, how all that's right. Like it's really hard to argue against that. Anything else is just opinion. So as RuPaul says, you know, you're born naked, rest is drag. Like that's how it works with creativity as well. You know, we have what we have and the rest is expression. So trusting that and figuring out how you can trust that. I know it goes like in like psychological aspect, but I would say that it's the best thing you realize is that there's literally no right and wrong. So whatever you do, just do whatever, go to the level of a child and just play. Music is about the word playing means having fun, pressing buttons with colors, making sound, being a child, going crazy. Like that's the point of playing and understanding there's no right or wrong on it, just having fun with it. And, you know, you can't do wrong.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, we come across this so much as well. Even in MPW where people keep asking like, have I done it right? When it's just something about their creativity. So
stop judging others. Also, don't say that others do things right or wrong, or that they're if you don't like their music, it's not wrong music. It's just not your taste. So being kinder to others as well as yourself when it comes to creativity, I think is like makes a bit better world.
Yes, for sure. Really a good thing to mention there as well. And before I let you go, I mean, there's been so much good stuff that you've shared with us. And if this is kind of what you're going through in the book, like I'm so excited. And
this is exactly what it is.
Okay, well, sign me up for a copy. And is there much you can tell us about that? I know you're kind of maybe can't share all the details with us, but is there anything that you can tell us about this very, very exciting book?
I can say that all these topics will be covered there in very much more in detail. I can say that it will come out in the next year-ish or so-ish. But so that you can actually follow more on my stuff, if you follow my YouTube channel, there will be a lot more content like this coming up in the future times. There might be a podcast about this topic. There might be all kind of more stuff. So if you follow my channels, you will get to know first when it comes out, and you will get first a lot of other stuff as well, like before it. So that's what I can say. I can't say like exact dates or anything.
No, that's very, very exciting. So I will say as well, so do go to Liina's channel. LNA does audio stuff on YouTube, and subscribe. We will put a link as well in the show notes. And, you know, in a year's time or whenever the book is out as well, we will put that link in this episode as well, because it's it's sounding like really, really invaluable information is going to be covered in there as well. So thank you so much, Liina. It's been such a pleasure and super excited to share this with our audience. And is it a busy day for you today?
Yes. Very fun.
Yes, as always. Oh, it's been such a pleasure. And yes, I know around all of the other things that you do, I better let you go. But thank you so, so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.